Hey, do you ever feel like you're just not good enough? That you don't really have what it takes to be loved, to be included, to get that promotion, or maybe to feel and look the way you want to look because you just don't believe you deserve it. In today's video, I'm going to share with you my own self-worth struggles as well as the top 5 tips that I utilize to help myself improve my own self-worth. So make sure you stick around. And if you want to learn the most powerful way that you can transform your whole health and life, be sure to ring the bell and subscribe and stick around so that you don't miss another one of my episodes, which I put out every Tuesday. And it's based on my 35 plus years of experience in the health and wellness industry. So one of the things, and probably the biggest thing that I really struggled with through my teenage years and my 20s, at least that I can remember, is an incredible depth of sadness. Like just a sorrow about life that was just out of proportion with really what was going on in my life. Now, don't get me wrong. I grew up in a very chaotic house. I had what I call a weekend warrior alcoholic father. You know, the parent that goes out on the weekends and drinks himself into oblivion and comes home drunk and belligerent. And again, not going to go into all that, but we all have struggles in our upbringing, and I get that. But you know, there was a lot of great things going on in my life too at the time, and I just couldn't seem to see them. I could only really focus on all the negative stuff. And maybe you do that as well. And it's probably why I had this affinity to Eeyore. I don't know if you know Winnie the Pooh, but Eeyore was one of the characters in Winnie the Pooh, and he was my favorite character. And if you think about it, we often are drawn to books and people and events and movies and things that resonate with our own state of being, how we feel about ourselves. And for me, that Eeyore, who is that epitome of apathy, of woe is me, always kind of low-grade depressed, that's really how I was. And if you feel like you're kind of drawn towards that type of character as well, then maybe you have the same kind of issues that I did. And really what that issue is having a really poor sense of self-worth. Now I know on the surface that it can look like depression, and there is a level of depression in there, absolutely. However, I've done a video on depression, so make sure you go over here and watch that one afterwards if you struggle with depression. However, an over-pervasive feeling of just unhappiness and sadness in life where you're feeling like, what's the point? Like, why am I even here? What is the meaning of it all? Is it even worth it? I've been there, done that, and it's a really horrible, stuck place to be in. However, there are ways that you can get yourself out of that place. And I'm going to share with you those tips today because I get it. Somewhere along the way, we all begin to feel like we're just not good enough on some level. Even if you have a good sense of yourself, certain things can really weigh you down. And here's the thing. We are all brought into life with, a unique character structure and into a family structure that has certain beliefs and ethics and, understandings, and you absorb those, and then you put your own thoughts and emotions onto that, and it becomes this big spiral effect. And if you're not, in a healthy mindset to begin with, then you can quickly and easily fall into a pit of despair that you really aren't sure how to get out of, because we're just not really taught how to get out of these things. And so I'm going to help teach you today how to boost up your own sense of self with some really great tips and suggestions, because self-worth issues affect us all. And when they affect you, they're going to affect everybody around you as well to some degree, because what you put out affects your world, and then that world comes back at you. So my number one suggestion is to really learn to listen to your own inner intuition or instincts, your own voice inside. And some of you might already do that to some degree or not, and some of you might not even have a clue how to do that. And I'll share this. When I was younger, in my teens and early 20s, and I was going through all those struggles, I bought a bazillion books on how to how to listen to your intuition, what your intuition was, how to raise your higher consciousness. All of these things really attracted me. I wanted to know all of this. And I would read them all and they'd all give me little perspectives, but it still was like, do I really know how to listen to myself? Because you can learn something and it can make sense knowledgeably, if that's a word. However, it doesn't always integrate into who you are and how you relate to it and create it in your own being. There's a difference. And it took me a really long time to recognize that inner word inside myself. So what I'm going to do is I will do a video another time on how to develop your own intuition. We're not going to talk about that today. But what I will say is one of the easiest ways to start to do that is just listen to what feels good. If something is going on or you need to make a decision or whatever, if you base all of your decisions on how it makes you feel inside and good, if it feels good, it's right for you. Regardless of what anybody else in your life thinks, no matter what your authority figures in your life or your friends or whoever, even if they all poo-poo it, but it makes you feel joyful and alive and I really want to do this, then that's your intuition telling you that this is what's right for you at this point in your life, and you should listen to that. And number two, based on doing things that make you feel good about you, that make you want to do things, is learn who are you really, not what your life defines you as or what your parents are defining you as or what everything else around you is telling you you are. Who are you really? Who are you inside? Do not deny how you really are feeling about everything in life. You know, we oftentimes make decisions and thoughts and actions because we want to please everybody else, and that's because you're not feeling worthy. However, when you do that, you deny your own real self. And trust me on this, the longer you do that in your life, the further and further and further away you get from your own authentic self. Trust me, I've been there. And I see a lot of clients come in my door that are in their 50s and 60s and they have no idea who they are anymore. And they're depressed. And they're on antidepressants, and they're on anxiety meds because they've never learned to define themselves. So I would say this, get a journal, get a piece of paper, whatever, your phone, whatever's most convenient for you, and start making a list of all of the things in your life that bring you joy, that make you feel inspired, that make you want to learn more or do more in that direction. What are the things that you just love to do? What do you like to do? What are your gifts in this world? Write them all down and then really go over them every single day and make sure you're doing something each day in that direction. And now with your journal, I also want you to do number 3, which is really be attentive to the areas in your life where you are very hard on yourself, where you feel more negative energy, where you just don't feel happy or inspired. The opposite of what you've just done. Those areas are actually the areas in your life where you need to work on the most. You know, we're brought into this world with incredible gifts over on one side, but with those gifts you also have a deficit. And that's not a bad thing. It's okay. It's because we're here to live life, to make the most of our life for ourselves, first and foremost. And not to be narcissistic about it, but your life is yours and you need to make it yours. And when you do make it yours, most of the time, even though you got other people to care for and you have to do this and you have this job, all of that is fine and dandy. But at the base of it all, you need to stand true with what is right for you. So find those areas where you're being negative and hard on yourself and really write them down and be attentive to when are you really hard on yourself? What area of your life are you struggling and do you struggle the most with? And where you're the most hardest on yourself? And those are the areas that you need to work on. That's all. Try to remind yourself that it's okay to not have it all, to not know it all, to not be it all. None of us are. I used to think that eventually I would get to this incredible Zen, perfect place in life and everything would be golden. I actually really used to think that. And early on in my own journey, and as I went along, and even though I hit plateaus where I'm like, I feel great, life is good, it's all going the way I want it to, and then I get this wrong. And then I struggle because that little self-worth issue, be like, oh, why did that happen? Maybe I'm really not good enough. Oh my gosh. And all of those things will bubble up. And then I go, no, this is just life. Life gives you trials and tribulations so that you can learn to overcome them and become better. That's all that this is. So, learning to not look at things that you are struggling with as a negative. They're not really negative. But at this point in time, you may think they are. And so when you feel that you're in those negative places, journal about them so you can really get a more objective perspective on them when you read them again, say the next day or another time. It gives you a way to kind of see it differently than when you're in it in the moment. And kind of going along with what I've just said is number 4, which is really change those negatives. So as I said, when you feel you're in a negative place and you're struggling and you're not feeling your optimum, look at it as a good life lesson. And that was one of the things that once I finally got that lesson, to look at things as lessons and not negative and bad, it really transformed how I addressed things and how I addressed life. I didn't feel as pessimistic and poo-pooed as I used to always feel. Believe me, I was the biggest pessimist going. I thought life just sucked butt. I really did. However, as I started on my journey and I gained more consciousness and I worked through all these lessons, I really became aware that, there really isn't any negatives. And where I find it's a negative, I just have to buck up and look at it objectively and decide, how do I want to transform that? So here's one way I always do it is every time you catch yourself thinking a negative or feeling in a negative place, you have to learn to catch yourself. And that's the trick. So just making the choice to be more conscious and consciously aware of your thoughts and your feelings is a really good first step. And even if that's as far as you get, you might go through days and days and days, and then all of a sudden you're like, I've been really in a bad place. That's okay. It happens to the best of us. And when you recognize it in that moment, then write it down and think about it and really go, okay, I'm going to try not to go back there. And you might keep yourself out of it for a little while, and probably you'll find yourself 4 or 5 days later or a month later back in that same place. Life kind of has this cyclical pattern, and until you fully learn that lesson and you overcome it by dint of your own effort, you're going to keep kind of coming into it in some way, because that's how life gets our attention. It's like, hello, are you aware? Like, hello, are you paying attention? The more you consciously pay attention and the more you consciously make choices that are based on what's going to make you feel good, the faster life is going to improve for you and the longer you will stay out of those negative states. It's just how it works. So comment below, do you ever catch yourself in a negative place, in a negative state, any negative thoughts or emotions going on? When you catch yourself in that nasty place, are you aware of it in the moment? And if so, what do you do to kind of pull yourself out of it? Share in the comments below. And number 5 is, of course, develop daily self-worth exercises. And I'll say this, my absolute favorite, and I don't even think I realize I do them anymore. I've been doing them for so long that they've just become a part of my life and a habit, and I kind of unconsciously always do them, is affirmations. And it was when I first started my journey back in the 80s, Louise L. Hay had wrote her very first book, How to Heal Your Life. And it is still, I still have that very first book. And it was a Bible for me. And I lived by that for many, many years. There are ways to say affirmations in the right way, and I'm going to do a video on that in a little bit. But for now, basically just learning to take any negative state that you're feeling and saying it in the positive as often as you can, repeatedly over and over, as many times as you can, is really, really helpful. And here's the key. You have to be able to manifest how that really feels. That's the key to manifestation. I did a video on that over here. You can go check that out on how to really manifest what you want and the key that's missing. But really, it's just being able to feel it inside of you. You have to truly, at your core, believe it. And the way to believe it is to feel it. Your emotions create the external actions and reactions in life, which come back to you. I hope that makes sense. So even today with self-worth issues, if you just come up with a simple self-affirmation that says, I am worthy of, maybe there's something you want to be worthy of, or simply just, well, gosh darn it, I'm worthy. I really am. I absolutely love and respect and honor myself. I am an amazing person. Have you ever seen the video of that little girl? I don't know how many years ago it was, and it was really cute. And she was standing on the counter in the bathroom, and she was looking at herself in the mirror, and she was going, I love you. I love your hair. I love your face. I love the shirt that I'm wearing. It's the funniest video. I literally laugh every time I see it. But it's so heartwarming because it was in my teens when I was starting to do therapy, and one of my therapists made me stand in front of a mirror and say, I love you. You have to look in your own eyes and you have to literally say, I love you. Do you know how freaking hard that was for me? If you struggle with self-worth issues, go try that exercise. You may not be able to do it right away, and it may make you feel kind of inside. It did for me. And I repeat it daily over and over and over again. Maybe go try that exercise. That's a really great way. Looking at your eyes and your own soul and saying, I love you is so self-empowering. So try that one out. But affirmations must come with emotions. So make sure when you're saying it, you're feeling it. And if you have to fake it till you make it, fake it till you make it. Come up with something in your life that you do feel worthy about and grab that feeling and then say what you want to be worthy about with everything else. I hope that helps. I know it's a really tricky thing to come out of, but once you start to consciously make those choices and you actually take steps and action, it's gonna happen. It just is gonna take some time, and be okay with it taking time. Because negative thoughts or beliefs that you've taken on, whether consciously or unconsciously, affect your whole life. It's what I call your overall state of being, and I talk about this all the time. This is my specialty, is people's states of being. Who you really believe you are affects everything else in your life. So make sure that you really take some positive steps, and those positive steps will get you where you truly want to be. And if you really are struggling with, your self-worth issues, and it's a real struggle, and even these exercises, you're like, oh, I'll tell you this. Make sure you go below and grab my Jumpstart kit, because it will help you on an unconscious level shift that state to a degree that you can then maybe feel better at making bigger changes. Every one of my kits deals with not just the mental and emotional aspect of an issue, but the physical aspect as well. So go check that out. As well, I really hope you liked this video today. If you did, make sure you hit that like button. I really appreciate it. And then, ring the bell, subscribe, stick around. Make sure you go over and watch these videos over here. They're based on how your thoughts and your emotions are really affecting your whole health. If it's something that you've never looked at before. And remember, for the rest of this week, be authentic, be empowered, and own it completely. Bye.